Good morning, dear children. Today we are going to study pollination and the contrivances of pollination. Pollination, it is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the flower. Depending upon the source of pollen grains, pollination can be of three different types, namely autogamy, gynogamy and cynogamy or allogamy. Autogamy means the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower. And when coming to cleistogamous flowers, we can see only autogamy occur. Cleistogamous flowers means flowers that do not open at all. Here only self-pollination or autogamy will occur. Example is Comedina, Oxalis, etc. And in the case of gynogamy, it is very similar to that of autogamy or self-pollination, because here the transfer of pollen grain is from anther to stigma of the flowers of the same plant. That is why it is similar to autogamy or self-pollination. And when coming to cynogamy or allogamy, we can see here it is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of flowers of another plant of the same kind. That is why it is called cross-pollination. And here we can see mixing up of character occur and variation occur in the production of seeds. And here we can see pollen grains from anther to stigma of another plant of the same kind occur. And here mixing up of character between different plants occur, and so leading to variation of character. And thus we can see the three different types of pollinations are autogamy, gynogamy and cynogamy. And when we are studying this, we have to come across these two different types of flowers, namely cleistogamous flowers and chasmogamous flowers. Cleistogamous flowers means flowers that do not open at all and expose their androecium and gynoecium. So in this case, autogamy alone takes place. And when coming to chasmogamous flowers, here we can see these are ordinary flowers that will get open and expose their androecium and gynoecium, as in the case of rose, and then gulmoger, then this one, then ipsora, etc. We can see chasmogamous flowers are there. And now we have to come across the agents of pollination. Depending upon the nature, we can see two different types of contrivances or agents are there. That is living agents and non-living agents. The living agents are known by the name the biotic agents, like that of insects, birds, and then bats, then snakes, etc., which may cause pollination, namely biotic agents, that is the living agents that cause pollination. They are the insects, bats, birds, snails, etc. Some ants also will do the same. And here we can see the abiotic agents means the non-living agents that cause pollination, like wind, water, etc. We have to study this in detail. Now we can study the characteristics of wind pollinated flowers. Here the wind pollinated flowers are also known by the name anemophilous flowers. Anemophilous flowers. And these wind pollinated flowers are not usually attractively colored or showy. And these flowers are usually small and unisexual. Again, the pollen grains of these flowers are produced in plenty and they are usually dry and powdery. Here first of all, the flowers are not showy or attractively colored. Flowers are small and unisexual. Again, the pollen grains are produced in large quantities and are light and powdery. Next is the stigma exposed, large and feathery. Next, anthers are exposed and versatile and allowing free swimming in air. First of all, we can see flowers are not showy or attractively colored. Flowers are small and unisexual. Pollen grains are light and powdery and produced in large quantities. And then again, the stigma is exposed, branched and feathery. Anthers are exposed and versatile, that is allowing free swimming in air to liberate the pollen grains, and they lack scent and honey. And if the flowers are small, they are aggregated into inflorescences to collect more pollen grains. And again, in plants like that of pinus, the pollen grains are winged. These are the different characters of wind pollinated or anemophilous flowers. See it once again. Flowers are not showy or attractively colored. Flowers are small and unisexual. Pollen grains are light and powdery and produced in large quantities. And again, stigma exposed, branched and feathery. And again, anthers are exposed and versatile and allowing free swimming in air. And then again, they lack scent and honey. And again, if the flowers are small, they are aggregated into inflorescences. And in plants like that of pinus, the pollen grains are winged. These are the characters of wind pollinated or anemophilous flowers. Next, we can study the characters of insects pollinated flowers or endomophilous flowers. Endomophilous flowers. Here usually the insects pollinated flowers are large and attractively colored, or we can say that it is attractively colored or showy. Then they are provided with scent and honey to attract insects. Then pollen grains sticky or spiny. And again, when flowers are small, they are grouped into inflorescences to make it conspicuous. And then again, the pollen grains are produced in small quantities. And flowers pollinated by flies, beetles, etc. produce foul odor to attract beetles and flies, as in the case of Amorphophallus. Here you see again, the flowers are usually large and attractively colored. And again, they are produced in, they are provided with scent and honey to attract insects. And again, pollen grains are sticky or spiny. And then when flowers are small, they are aggregated into inflorescences to make it conspicuous. And again, the pollen grains are produced in small quantities. And then flowers pollinated by flies and beetles emit foul odor to attract flies and beetles. Example, Amorphophallus. Next, there are also flowers that are pollinated by birds like that of Erythrina. And again, bat pollinated flowers are there like that of Musa, etc. And again, we can go to that pollination by water. Now we can study pollination by water. And here we are dealing with the pollination in Vallisneria, an aquatic plant. Here we know Vallisneria is dioecious, that is, male and female plants are separate. In the case of male flowers, male plants, we can see the male flowers are produced in clusters at the base of the plant. When the male flowers are mature, they are get detached from the stalk of the flower and float on the surface of water. And in the case of female flowers, the female flowers are produced singly at the tip of long stalks so that it can open towards the surface of water. And the free floating male flowers swim about in water as the wind flow, and finally some flowers may happen to reach near the female flowers. They happen to fall into the depression developed around the female flowers and happen to touch the stigmatic surface with the stamens. Thereby, pollination is effected. First of all, we can see that the plants are dioecious, that is, male and female plants are separate. The male flowers are produced in clusters at the base of the male plant, and when they are fully mature, and they are detached from the stalk and float on the surface of water. And in the case of female flowers, female plants, they are produced singly at the tip of long stalks and open towards the surface of water. And the free floating detached flowers, male flowers, happen to come in contact with the female flowers and fall in the depression around the female flower and thereby touching the stigmatic surface and effecting pollination. After pollination and fertilization, we can see the long stalk of the flower is pulled down by the coiling of the stalk so that it is brought to the bottom and where seed development occur. Thereby pollination and fertilization occur in Vallisneria. And here we can see plants are dioecious, male and female plants are separate, male flowers are produced in clusters at the base of the male plant, and when mature they detach and float on the surface of water, and the female plants produce the female flowers singly and open towards the surface of water, and the floating male flowers when come in contact with the female flower and it suddenly fall into the depression around the female flower and happen to touch the stigmatic surface, and thereby fertilization is effected. Pollination and fertilization is effected. And after fertilization we can see the long stalk coils and pulling the fertilized egg at the bottom where develop into seed. This much about fertilization. In the case of this water pollinated plants, we can see here the flowers are not showy and also they are not provided with scent and honey, but we can see one adaptation here is the pollen grains are protected by a mucilaginous coating in order to prevent it from decaying. This much about fertilization in Vallisneria. Today we can stop here.